Okay, are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. Want to talk about something or?
Absolutely. So last we were here, we talked to you about the current road on the property that we just purchased. And it had to be improved prior to building. And in that meeting, that was the ask of us contacting all of the emergency services.
Right.
Emergency services being the ambulance, fire department, and sheriff's offices. So we've been in contact with both Irwin and Bonneville County, and we got their agreement to be able to provide services if we were to build a home over there, which is what was being asked.
The reason was because it was slow. 12%.
Of 10%. And the narrowness of it as well. Right now, it's barely a
Narrow,
track.
If we were proposed widening it a little or to what? 20 feet?
So, and that's, I don't know that we ever saw an engineered proposal to widen it out to 20 feet. There was some discussion about what we did with the private road up in the other Swan Valley, where it was 20 feet wide improved. And so I don't, yeah, that was an option that was talked about, but isn't necessarily a bite off on.
With the draw?
Not yet, because you wanted this.
We had surveying.
You got the letters and things that,
Do we have quite a bit of specs, so we have initial surveying done, but I don't think that specifies the width. There's so much information in here. I'd be surprised if it wasn't in here because he sends so many documents. I had to download the 2 folders he sent.
Who?
Surveying company.
It was Eagle Rock Engineering, I believe, right?
Okay.
We started working with them and then we had another.
We went with the company that's doing, they're doing Yellowstone National Park right now. That surveying company did it, our surveying right now. So we have all of the document, it's all electrical, and we do have letters from sheriff. We have a letter from the fire, and we have Swan Valley Fire Department as well.
If you give us copies of those.
Yes. Yes.
And then I guess other than that, it's just getting engineered drawings for us to review.
Engineering drawings. Okay.
So.
No, just so we do understand, this engineering that you're asking for, it is different from surveying, or what's the difference? So I know.
It is different because what they do is they do a final profile for the actual road cross section and show how it's gonna be constructed and the widths and the grades and everything else.
Okay. All right.
And this is for private, you have to do that still too.
Yes.
Okay.
We're just after making sure that if you get up there and something happens,
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
that's the big concern.
Yes. No, we're all for it. We don't want to put ourselves in danger either, and we're not trying to do anything illegal or anything like
Are
that.
you gonna, is this gonna be your residence up there or just a kind of something?
Smaller.
Yeah, for fun.
For creating, yeah. I grew up a lot in that area, so I really like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're from the Swan Valley area?
No, we would be out there a lot as a family, hanging out and whatnot. Yeah, we've seen the boom that's going on right now, and it's not fun. Yeah.
What do you do for work?
Oh, I'm a contractor, I just build shops and stuff.
Good business right now.
It's a great business right now.
If you can find it.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the stopping and set, and I work internationally for Moog.
Okay, yeah, if you, can you get.
Yeah.
Something?
Absolutely.
So we'll give them the lab, so we've got a file on this. So then, who's the engineer you work with?
His name is Tyrell.
No, that was just surveying, Eagle Rock.
Oh, Eagle Rock.
Yeah, forgot his name.
And Paul Snor had talked to me a little bit about it, but there's no way he can meet that 10% maximum grade we have in our specs, and that's where this all started, is like, they can't meet our specs for width or grade. But if we can,
Make an exception to show safety, because that's our
Right,
big
yeah.
concern. So,
so,
okay, so as soon as you get that, soon.
we'll have to review it and go through the process, but, Paul knows that process, so he can get it to us.
Right.
And
Paul
then,
used to work here, so.
Well, he's
Yeah.
really supportive. He's been really great.
and then once the road, once the road's been done and accepted, then we can issue a permit on the property. So that's all that we'll wait for, so.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Gotta get rid
Okay.
How old?
Four. It was Dave when we first came in here. She was 7 days, and now she's 4 months yesterday.
Well, I think she's gonna be tall. Burly.
Genetically, yeah.
He's the athlete.
He's a farmer.
Oh, is he? Farmer?
He thinks he.
He thinks. Yeah, cute kids.
Tractors, he's on them.
Okay.
Thank you
thanks.
so much.
Okay, one of the things we wanted to do after meeting with Scott at Weston yesterday is get him information to put in a letter to Intermountain's attorney about what would be expected to get them dumping up there.
So one of my concerns after being there was that they were a little bit vague on production. How much of this they're gonna produce.
Yeah, but if we're looking at a fee,
Right, but you also need to realize that the fee is not going to keep the landfill structure stable. So if we start to put too much of this material into there and we get a different ratio with our garbage to this type of waste, it's gonna cause us some, it could cause, and I'm just saying could, because we can't say for definite, but it could cause us some stability issues if we start to swamp our landfill. So we need to be careful about how much, I mean, if. So at one time he said, what? A load every other day. Well, when we met with him, when you guys were in the other building, it was. Well, we might have to come 2 or 3 times a day to get rid of the excess. So that I thought there was. That the 2 stories didn't kind of match up, you know, and then the other thing is. Do we put in there that when they can land apply, they need to? Or does that open a door, or does that open and close the door, or do they just say, oh, shoot, it's a lot cheaper to do it this way, so we're just gonna do it? Is there any way to strong arm them into land applying part of the time?
only if it exceeds our limits. You know, and how are you gonna determine that?
Well, you're really not, and after talking with Stephanie the last couple times we've met, I think there's a lot of. There's a lot of unknown variables here that nobody really knows. I mean, we know that this is going to attribute to our gas production. And we also know that right now our gas production is causing us leachate. Those are both variables that we do know for a fact, because the gas is bringing the moisture to the top with it. And for some odd reason that I don't think anybody can really understand, we're getting some leachate coming up in our well, in our gas well. So is by putting this material in there, like the solids out of the wastewater treatment facilities and stuff like that, are these contributing to moisture factors in our landfill, which are starting to make this moisture rise in our gas wells? Now, we're not going to know what impact that is until we start to suck on the landfill. And then we're gonna know what our issues are. I've read some literature where people have had to pump their wells to get the moisture out of them so they'll be productive. We
The
don't know.
gas.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we have potentially that issue anyway,
Yeah.
and yours.
And then, you know, was talking to Scott at the wastewater treatment facility. They tried to hit a 20 to 25% dewater, moisture left in their solids. That's what they have to meet, is a 20 to 25%
From the,
from the wastewater, yeah, on their solid.
when they haul the.
This guy
solids.
claims he can get to 15 now.
Well, he said 10 to 15. According to, is that what he told you, Brian?
He said 10 to 15. He didn't have an exact percentage.
He said, yeah, I agree. He said 10 to 15, but when we would press him on it, he would always kind of defer to 15. So I think Blair's right. I think it's at least 15. You know, I don't think he knows for sure.
So how do we test that?
You know, well, you'd have to send it to a lab or something probably to figure out what the percentage.
Yeah, but
I think he's just estimating that. With the technology that they have, I think their what they've been told by the producers of that technology, that if they screw those screws down tight enough, they can meet this percentage, basically. I think that's what he's going
Well,
off
it's
of,
basically
that.
adding more polymer and more
Which-
chemical
yeah,
too.
could
That
be too.
that part of it.
yeah, 'cause
There's lots of variables there.
that one, you sent some pictures over, Brian, that he must have sent you showing test of it. And he even suggested that you use this for daily cover because it helps stuff run off. You know,
Well, and so, I mean, again, he said he knew all the chemistry, but when he did this object lesson for us and dumped water on top of a bucket of it, that water just sat there.
well, that's when he came up with the idea. Why don't we just spread this on top and then that'll be your rain shield?
Yeah. Like, no, I don't think we want to go there.
And he does not like you to challenge his thought process, like we
So
talked about maybe this contributing to our leachate factor.
the methodology that they're using there is certainly capable of dewatering the
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
And I had a bigger concern with that extra dumpster off to the side, Commissioner Reed, that was dumping in fats, oils, blood and stuff, and they would just essentially dump that on top of the trailer of the dewatered sludge. So that
Yeah.
was a bigger concern to me, and that stuff I don't think will ever pass a paint filter test.
Well, but see, because you've got two proposals here. And I'm assuming we'd only want to get tied up in one, the visual. If it doesn't meet a visual and that they've tested it down there and it comes up and doesn't meet the condition, you just kick it back.
And that's, I wasn't sure. I didn't know where this was gonna end up going.
Yeah, because on-site inspection and testing,
On-site inspection would be us having to do a paint filter test up on site.
wouldn't it be simpler for us if you just, if it doesn't meet a visual, just send it back?
It would be much easier to, if it doesn't pass a visual, to send it back. But is that gonna be challenged?
It would, it will be. Yeah, it will be. And it becomes somewhat arbitrary because, you know, it depends on who's up there checking the load and them determining. And it's absolutely going to have water up on top because it's going to settle out. I mean, Paul admitted that as you travel up. But I think it is also true that the entire load, when it was mixed together, you know, did meet that test. This is a different product than is what he showed us the other day is a completely different product than he was trying to dump a month or two ago. You know, he's cleaned it up.
Well, he wasn't doing anything according to that, guy that worked out there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he wasn't testing it all. I did get that from the guy that worked there. They weren't testing it all, and I doubt they were tightening it up. They were just kind of going through the motions. We have forced him to do it right, I think.
Thinking about conditions then, one of them could be documentation that it has been tested there.
Well, and that's why I come up with documentation and a visual inspection process. So
they have to come up to your operator, bring the document that it has been tested down there, this load. However you determine that it's for that load.
that's also a challenge. I mean,
Well, it'd have to be date and time.
it would have to be date and time, and it would have to be within a short amount of time of when the trailer actually shows up on site.
What if we put hours that we will accept it? Like we'll accept one trailer every other day between 2 and 3 o'clock, and then you to be looking for it. If we kind of schedule their delivery, you think that's reasonable?
Well, right now, the way that we have the landfill configured, why there's really no way that he can end up on the working face. I mean, they can't really dump it anywhere else as long as they're on the landfill, but
But that's why we get the gates. And control the access, and I think Brian had talked about one time, for the public, and John was all for this, because we do it in Swan Valley. They've got 2 or 3 days a week that they can actually go up there, which gives your guys some relief.
but I think the challenge with that is going to be that we have the city and PSI and Eagle Rock and them have to come every day with mixed containers. And so
Why does
those guys are in every day.
up on the hill?
Yeah.
The city does?
Yeah, the city, PSI, Eagle Rock. If they have a mixed load that can't go to Hatch and can't go to the transfer station, they have to go to the hill.
Okay, what do we charge them?
$40 a ton.
So there's mixed loads hauled to the Peterson Hill is $40 a ton or $200 a load.
Yeah,
We already have
and we're
that.
doing that. Most of those people. are
That's
doing the
already
200
adopted
load.
fee.
Okay, see, that's why I say if we use the adopted fee. $40 per load or per ton?
$40 a ton or
They
$200 per load.
Yeah, and the reason we went to the load fee when we did this is because a lot of these cans are south and east, southwest, southeast of town. So for them to have to come clear to the transfer station way and then go to Peterson Hill. So we sat down with the city when we came up with this. And they said, yeah, I mean, most of those cans are gonna average 4 or 5 tons, so
Okay,
if we
then-
can bypass that, we can go straight up there.
Okay, so if you don't limit the hours that these guys can dump, because this is a different type of waste that you have to. You can't overload it, apparently, you have to be able to mix it in. So
Well,
you can't
We're
have-
gonna have to be able to spread this type of material out just like we do the sludge from the Urson.
Yeah.
We're-
And what do we require?
I don't know if you have a limitation on Urson when they come.
No, they just come during our normal hours, which is,
But as far as volume,
they're doing 2 to 3 loads a
But we
day.
don't have a limit on that.
We're
We,
doing 2 to 3 loads a day, like twice a week.
yeah. But again, we don't have a limit on what they can and can't bring right now.
It's
So
just-
the question I've got to ask based on that is, what's the difference between these guys and what you're taking from Ursa?
Nothing
Well,
really.
then we've got a real problem. I mean, why are we not letting these guys bring it and we allow Ursa to bring, multiple loads a day possibly?
Well, number one, they weren't meeting the paint filter test. We all know that. You know that he screwed that thing down just to show you And he's gonna unscrew it just as soon as you give him the option to do that.
Well-
This guy is. My biggest concern about this whole thing with him is he will not comply to our operation. He is gonna do what he wants to do, and
That's,
if he wants to come, he's gonna come.
that's what we're after, is coming up with
Yes,
what
yeah.
do we expect him to do to have Weston give it to his attorneys? And with the idea that any violation of that.
Yeah.
he'll-
Cause they were supposed to call, they're supposed to do all these things and. I mean, he proved that he's not gonna follow the operation plan up there just by showing up the other day,
Do we have Ursa call?
every load,
Okay,
every load.
so let's put the same conditions we do with Ursa. And also say that, volume wise, because Ursa hasn't been a volume problem for us. Now, I mean, I know in the beginning, they probably did when they had all the big piles of sludge.
Yeah, when we had a cleanup, what it was, but we, Bannock County and ourselves kind of worked together and got rid of that for him, but yeah.
Yeah, but we limited what they could bring in and.
It's a chat, yeah. I
some-
mean, all this stuff is a challenge, no doubt, but.
Yeah, cause he still has to keep open the option if he's gonna exceed our volumes. That he's gonna have to go to Mud Lake.
And I think you just, I don't know, Brian, can we limit what he brings, or do you feel like that if they?
Well, I think if we limit
Can't do
him,
that.
we have to limit Ursa too, and we have to limit everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, why we would put a limit on him if we don't limit Ursa. I hadn't realized that it's the exact same thing, really, just,
It's not exactly the same thing, but it's dewatered in the same way.
Yeah.
And it's a sludge that is capable of essentially looking very similar. But chemically, it's way different than what Ursa sludge is, but it acts
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah, cause I remember when you had the sludge up there, you could only do so much or it was too soft for your equipment.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's. the
I think-
concern. They're taking a lot of it, they're gonna have trouble.
I think one way to limit him is just get the fee high enough, so that if he's got another option, because he kept implying that, he would like to haul it somewhere else. I think we just get the fee high enough, but we're gonna have to charge Ursa the same fee. That, if it kind of forces him to look for other options, which they
Yeah.
should be, if there's a better option than the landfill, we should be saving that landfill.
Well, we apparently don't have to advertise, because, that's something that, we can point out, have Weston point out. There is an adopted fee schedule or per load, which you have to estimate the weight, because we know, pretty much what the person's weight is, don't we?
Yeah, cause
we had a
made
rough
them weigh-
estimate.
we made them weigh, I don't know how to do trucks. And then we
Yeah,
average.
and we could do the same thing with here, and then you figure out so much per. And that's the, how much per load.
I would guess, Blair, maybe you or Lance too, you saw the trailers. I would guess that he would get 8 to 10 ton on that trailer.
At 15% water moisture, I bet it's higher than that.
It might be. It didn't feel very heavy. That, that small ball I picked up, it didn't feel very dense.
Yeah. And
But-
that's where a lot of the challenge comes in. If he dewaters it to 15%, the weight is X. If he only dewaters it to 20%, that's a lot more water weight associated with it and a lot harder to deal with. And so, again, it comes back to the documentation of him testing this product and dewatering it to a certain level
Right.
to even that out. And some of that, I think, can be shown through a visual inspection and some of it can't.
Yeah.
I think one of your challenges here is going to be if the wastewater treatment facility can pass the paint filter test at 25%, he's gonna run at 25%. He's gonna run right on the cuff, because the tighter they have to pull that press down, the
The more
harder
it
it is
costs
on
them.
it. And it costs them more money, so
Yeah,
he's gonna run right on the cuff.
but you pretty much have to allow him in if it passes the paint.
Yeah.
test.
Yeah, that's what we
You know,
got.
but if it
keep
comes
him
in
out.
and it's dripping out the bottom or something, that when it gets that, you know, it has to be able to pass a paint filter test. When he gets there with the documentation, which probably is a good reason for saying, you know, the testing has to be done prior to departure. You know, that's stuff you can give to Weston to put in there, you know, just set the conditions for it. And then come up with an estimate, because that stuff probably weighs different than.
Yeah.
Than the test, the stuff down there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, more than likely, yes, and like Lance said, the more percentage of moisture there is in it, the heavier it's going to weigh.
Cause you know, you're basically saying a load up there goes, how much a ton? 40?
So it was $40 a ton or $200 a load if the load is not weighed at the transfer station.
Okay.
And that,
It's
again, those are,
$40 a ton, but it'll be, whatever the load is.
Right.
Based on your estimates.
and if we have an agreement with him. And that agreement says that your loads will be X number of tons. And it will be this much a load, and it will be, I mean, if we can set those conditions on accepting the waste, and what those conditions are, I don't exactly know. But I think if you limit the time, you limit the volume, and you set up a fee schedule for what it is. Based on a 15% moisture content of whatever that waste is. And then if it's outside of those realms, you turn them away.
Are you gonna limit the volume on Ursid then?
We do.
Well, I think we're probably gonna be in the boat where we have to. We have to come up with some sort of an agreement for how much of Ursid sludge we're gonna take too.
Each week. And that's the thing, because they call before they come. And he needs to call before he comes.
Yeah,
And then, where this is a little different type, you know, the limitations may be a little different.
Yeah,
yeah.
But, because of the type of waste you're doing with it.
well, and this is very similar to a significant wastewater producer that Idaho Falls has agreements with, Ammon has agreements with these significant wastewater contributors. They have a whole agreement. And it's specific to that company, set up for these conditions and how much BOD and how much, what the pH is and everything else. We're probably looking at the very same, similar type of an agreement, say, we'll accept your waste on these conditions.
Which, by the way, he's representing to the city of Idaho Falls, we hear that, he's already got an agreement with us. And that's what's causing his smells, because we won't take this stuff.
He has told that to Chris Frederickson that we are very close to having an agreement. And he is also blaming all the odor complaints on the fact that he can't dump at Bonneville County.
See, and that's absolutely not true, because the stuff he showed us the other day has no odor. It doesn't have odor. The stuff he's bringing to us has no odor. The odor's coming off all the rest of the waste.
The dewatered sludge doesn't have much odor. That other bin to the side, I guarantee has odor.
And that's, see, I wonder what he's doing with that, 'cause is that a?
He's
business
dumping it
picks
in
up?
on top of the sludge and sending it up the hill too.
Well, that's,
But see that, they could take that material that's in that bag that they were dewatering right there, they could throw that.
They could, but they're not.
Well, but you could put that in we're not gonna take that back. That bag is the same stuff that's coming out. It's the inner, you know, similar to the inner.
I know it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
It should be in the rendering truck.
It should. Yeah, they need to
But,
take
yeah.
that bag needs to end up in that rendering truck. That doesn't mean, he was trying to prove to you that he could put that bag in there and still pass the paint filter.
I know, but it shouldn't be in with the same stuff. I mean,
That's the conditions, we have to put on it,
Right.
you know, see.
Yeah, so
It's
sorry, I know
different.
it's Zoom, but so one of the conditions would be then, right, that we only take material that's gone through the press.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you could designate like the stuff that comes off of that drum separator that goes into that bag. We won't accept that.
Right.
That can come back into that. That needs.
Explain that to me, because I didn't see it.
So basically what that does is they wash their floors down and everything in the facility and it goes into their wastewater. So their wastewater comes across and it's pumped into a big drum separator, which is basically a big screen. And it
takes out the big
screens
stuff.
out the big stuff so that it doesn't plug up the secondary process so they screen that out to a certain size. And that comes off a little chute and goes into a tote. And that tote has the ability to let the liquids out and it runs into the drain right there, but it contains the solid.
And you're saying that those solids need to be run through this press.
Well, those solids need to go in their render truck.
And
So what he's
back
doing is
across.
he's taking that bag and dumping that bag in with this press stuff, which
Make that a
Yeah.
condition. See,
Yeah.
you know, when you say we've got to treat them the same, you do in general, but there are specifics that are different,
right.
Yeah,
you know?
So my concern with all of this, and I know that we probably need to deal with this guy just like we do everyone else. And Austin, you can weigh in on this as well. So you guys put together this ordinance. A solid waste ordinance. To keep industrial waste out of the landfill, but yet we're going to allow this guy in here. So. If Lance goes out and builds an industrial facility or a commercial facility, it doesn't matter, and he starts to produce similar waste. Your waste ordinance isn't gonna do you any good, because you allowed this guy in. You're gonna have to allow
That's
Lance.
where we'll have to get like the city of Idaho Falls does. Each one of them has their own specifics. Agreement, you know, maybe that could be in our ordinance.
I guess that was just something I needed, because honestly, it looks like to me that if Lance and I go out and start a business and we produce industrial waste. As long as it meets the criteria of the landfill, we're in, and your ordinance says we're not. So
Give
is
me an
that ordinance,
example of what type of stuff that would be?
well, that's true, but in there, we generalize that to basically eliminate this process.
Based on the challenges that I've witnessed now that you have at the landfill, Blair, I wish we weren't taking Ursa's waste. I wish we could shut them both off, honestly, and do exactly what you're saying. I mean, stop most of this industrial waste, but unless we want to tackle that one, yeah, we have no choice, right?
Right now, we don't have the option. We need that outlet for our leachate, and that was that agreement, so that's one of them mom and pa handshake deals. We'd have talked with our engineers about removing the solids from these other places and just trying to keep that agreement between us, because we need that agreement for our leachate. But these other places don't bring anything to the table. Now, if we build a great big pond and we can aerate our liquids off, and we don't need them anymore, we could
But-
probably make
But
that stand
until
in.
that, we have
Yeah,
to do that.
until then, we're kind of stuck.
But back to this, you could say whatever comes out of that tote has to be,
Yeah.
however you describe it, put back in and test.
And it's
Any-
the same material. I don't know why they
Any
don't. just throw it in
visual of that will be reason to
turn it away.
turn it away. And a continued violation, you know, if we find any improper dumping, continued violation could
Right.
Good agreement to dump here, get out
Well,
someplace else.
basically what we said in the ordinance is commercial industrial waste from commercial and industrial generators that will prevent the safe continuous operation of the county waste storage facilities as determined by the county commissioners from time to time. So basically, at any time, if this industrial waste or this commercial waste prevents the safe operation of the landfill, we can tell them you're done.
Make sure.
So
West-
put that in the conditions that at this time, the commissioners have determined it's safe to accept this industrial waste, but.
Under these conditions.
But if these conditions aren't met and at any time it becomes unsafe to accept this to the landfill, you're done.
But we've determined that it will be safe if they adhere to these conditions. If not, the loads will be turned away, repeated violation, they'll have to revisit it.
So if we continue down this road, which is the direction that we're headed now. If later on. Our leachate production doesn't go down and some of these issues with our gas wells and stuff continue,
And your
Is
engineer
there-
can
is
show
there an
there's a
out?
possibility, yeah. right
That's
there.
the out.
The commissioners come and determine it's not.
So we're
possible.
basically, and in that agreement wording that you're making with them. I would basically say something like, at this time, the commissioners have determined they can accept this waste. Right, but at any time, if this affects the landfill negatively, they have the right to say, we can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
So, and it would probably need to be the same with URSID, right? If we get to a point with URSID that we're getting those same exceeded levels, it's like, hey. We can't take this anymore, right?
Well, and with URSID, we could lower the volumes if we still need them for emergency later on, because DEQ is trying to get, the waste. Let's see, what was it they were trying to have us meet together on? Oh, the leachates. The waste treatment plant's not being able to take leachates because of a certain element. PFAS, which I understand because that's part of the TMDL loading that they're trying to.
To get to, yeah, although nobody really understands what those limits are.
Well, and I don't think there really is yet, is there? I
They're-
mean, the
they've
feds
been
are
working
trying
on
to
it.
do something,
Yeah,
but as far
They've
as the
been
state
working on
adopting it,
those
for a
from
long
the day
For
we
quite a while,
started.
And there's some technologies out there where you can scrub the PFAS
Some of
and you
them,
can still, you can get it to the level that it can go
It
into.
just
these
costs a lot of
treatment
money.
facilities.
Well, but I think that plant is built in to keep those limits down. I mean, that's part of the upgrade,
Yeah. with the new-
but, yeah, if Weston can make sure there's wording in there that says that any time we deem that, the commissioners deem that the operation's not safe, these agreements can be rescinded.
And it would probably be based off of the volume, right? Like. You're taking too much of this material now, which is making the landfill unsafe, right? You're exceeding whatever levels you need to be at.
well, either volumes or. I mean, there's the constituent based and what it is, I mean,
We'll get that wording in there. for
Yeah.
Weston.
So I think you could do either one of those because it's really the commissioner's decision. Whether they allow the industrial waste in there or not, based off of a set of criteria, and at any time they can say we can't take it anymore.
If it's deemed.
Unsafe.
That in it.
Yeah.
what ordinance was that?
So that's in the solid waste ordinance that we did, and it's under section 13J,
But it was an ordinance number, right?
25523.
25523. That's 255-23,
Yeah.
right?
And there again, I mean, it needs to be. Structured to the point that if you don't call, you don't dump.
Right.
If you don't.
I was gonna
I
say,
mean,
let's
this
go
thing
back,
needs- Because this gentleman.
let's go
has
back over
proven
those to give,
That it,
uh. because we do require these type of loads.
Yeah.
Come up, hauled before they dump. The testing would have to be done within a certain amount of time. There couldn't be any visible, whatever that,
Liquids or whatever.
yeah, that tote on
Oh,
top
yeah.
of this material. See, those are violations. Any of which those conditions aren't met, they'll either be turned away or, they kind of sneak them in. If they don't meet any of these, just come in and dump like they have, that's a violation.
Yeah.
And then I do think long-term, we're gonna wanna get still some type of gate access, cause you have no idea what's coming in. Take the bone people, they can come in there and they can have 250-gallon drums of pesticides and just dump in there.
How do I put this as nicely as possible? Most all of our butchers that utilize our facility call. They've got a letter, they know that they got a call. This specific incident was.
But if they don't call, they lose their privilege too.
Yes.
See, that's
And that
that's the
needs
whole
to be
thing.
written into our operation plan, and they also need to know that, but this particular incident was orchestrated for a purpose. But cause that guy always calls, and then all of a sudden he just doesn't
You know
call
who
one
it
day and
is?
shows up. We're working on figuring it, there's only 3 of them, so. We're pretty sure that this gentleman comes out of the ball packing facility over here off of,
Oh, really?
but I've got
Oh,
to
yeah,
make
but
sure.
that's a different source of money.
Supposedly.
That's what we were told.
Commissioner Reed,
Yeah.
did you pick up on that when you asked him about that?
Yeah, I did. He was kind of vague with who the owners is, but yeah, it was a different source of money, of funding.
It's definitely a different source, but it comes from a similar entity.
Okay, great, it's a different source, but that source, we've got him on pictures dumping 255 gallon. He's done for a while.
Well, and I think we need to catch that guy and just and remove him from the landfill. He can, Paul stated that he could bring his stuff there and they could.
Yeah, let him, but he's violated. And
Yeah.
if Paul lined that up, because there is a connection between them, which you said was kind of suspicious that he was waiting till he came up.
Yeah,
And he had
that he-
never dumped the liquids before.
Yep, exactly. Not that, I mean, all those guys have a little bit of that, because obviously when you process an animal and the innards, you're gonna get a little bit of that material. But not that quantity, for the innards and the bones that he had to have acquired that much blood. It came from either collecting it over time, or it came from another source, because he only had. There was only innards there for like 2 or 3 cows. You don't get 55 gallons. I mean, those 2 barrels weren't clear full, obviously, but it made a pretty good sized pool on the ground.
Oh, yeah. But see, what Chris is dealing with the city, and the odor is what's going through the waste treatment. So you wonder if you're getting that smell of, he's suspicious that some of that is being dumped. That's what happened at Ursa.
Yeah. They have they do have a state of the art facility. What they're doing there is probably top of line, obviously.
But
It
they
costs
don't
them a
want
lot
to
of
use it
money.
because of the cost.
But the type of material and the type of wastewater that they're treating, I don't think there's any way they're gonna get away from that smell. As soon as you open that door and walk into that facility, I mean, it's the smell that you smell when you drive down the road. It's just, that is just a part of that.
That's your fault, Blair.
No, I doubt it, because
No,
he told
he said
Commissioner Reed,
he said,
Yeah.
he told Chris that.
he told Commissioner Reed that he was that he was dumping all this material out in Hamer, that a rancher dug a big hole and they were dumping it in the ground out there. So as far as him stockpiling this material on their property, it isn't happening. So,
But it's still your fault, because he told Chris that.
well, I'm sure it is. Everything's the landfill's fault.
It's interesting though,
So-
because the plant west of town doesn't smell that way.
Is that right? I figured that's why they built that out on the desert, because it was, there's
It-
gotta be a
There,
little bit of
you can
odor.
go out to there and that odor that exists here does not exist out there.
Because, you're dealing with innards, but you're also dealing with the manure, which that liquid runs into that wastewater, and so they're treating for that as well. And that ammonia smell, the smell that when you open the door to that wastewater treatment area there, wow. That's a
Is
smell
that
that
a
only a mother
pretreatment?
could love.
Have they been required to have a pre-treatment?
This is their pre-treatment. So this runs through that milk press, and the water that comes out of the bottom of it ends up going into the sewer system. So this is their pre-treatment.
Yeah, I guess it's not like a complete wastewater treatment, but yes, it is a pre-treatment. They throw some polymers in there to get it to coagulate together, and then they also
They
add
use, I mean,
some
it's
pH
a,
adjusters and.
the
some
the
acids
science
in there.
behind flocculation and coagulation has been there for decades.
Yeah, they throw some polymer in there. It is a nice facility, no doubt, but I just,
Well, the best thing that you could do is when you find that guy in the picture.
yeah,
That's a violation, you can't dump
yeah,
there.
we've got our guys watching for him to come back again, and he'll be back.
Okay, is that enough of the conditions for Weston to let them know?
I'll take a shot at it. I mean, it's, there's a lot there, but I'll try to get with Weston and we'll figure out something, so.
Send it to me if you want, Lance, after you get the first draft, and I can add to it or give
Okay.
you, my thoughts.
Okay,
But yeah, and then the next thing to do is get hold of whoever was weighing that stuff, so you can get an estimate of how many tons in a load. But where was it that they weighed? Jefferson?
Oh, I don't think they weren't telling them that was dead animals, so that, I guess she might have some.
Who was it that
Weights
you
on
said
that.
weighed that stuff?
so when we first started talking about Ursid, they weighed
Yeah,
a
they
couple
weigh.
trucks to get a generalized weight of
We did
those
that.
trucks. We have not weighed anything from Intermountain Packing.
Yeah.
That make sure that's a requirement before we do that, we'll have to. So we
And-
can estimate it per load cost.
Commissioner Reed, did you notice a scale there?
No,
Did that have a
Um,
scale?
I didn't see a scale, but I don't know how they couldn't have one, where they're taking all those cattle and everything. I would assume they had a scale, but I didn't see it.
I didn't see one either.
I just should use our scale for the test.
Well, other than having them cross that scale.
Well,
Is gnarly, but
you can't have them cross the scale if it's dripping stuff.
right, but if they would, but yeah. But if they would weigh at their facility, then we don't have to smell that, cause that has a smell that's just.
we walked around most of that facility. There was not a scale
I
there, but
didn't know if there was a scale where those outfits were coming out and going through the gate.
that's where
Was there a
staff
scale
parking.
crossways right there?
No, I don't think so.
There must not be a scale there then. They must.
There
weigh
might
in.
not be. I'm
Why
surprised
not?
they wouldn't have one.
Me too.
I can check on Google Earth again and just looking over at view, but I don't think that was ever part of the site plan that I saw, is to have a scale there.
All you have to do is have them.
They're probably basing it on per head. They base it on per head, not per weight.
And they could weigh their boxes inside the facility, and so then they know how much of that's going on a per pallet onto
Yeah,
assembly.
But I still think they're probably doing
I
it per
didn't
head.
see one there, but I didn't.
Because basically they just come in and scale, turn around and go back out. They
Yeah.
wouldn't go into the,
Yeah, no.
the main thing, and they wouldn't be there that long.
Anyway, that gives us. Okay. You get up and look at stands, what he wanted you to inspect.
Yes, I got up there early this morning. The pictures are kind of grayish because the sun was right in our face. But he has got a very abrupt edge.
I thought he said he could do it without any edge.
Yeah, well. So here's the edge of the gravel. He's cut it down and it's probably a 2-to-1 slope down. And so it's a very abrupt edge. He's piled dirt all the way along his fence to the order of 14 to 18 inches high on that fence.
So he's basically building a big canal.
He's building a drain, which is what he kind of said he was gonna do, but he said he was gonna make it a nice swell with no abrupt edges, and there's a pretty abrupt edge.
So you're.
Well, we knew that that's what it would have to be. There's not enough room there to have the right grades.
Well, and so my concern with the abrupt edge off the edge of the road is who accepts the liability if someone has a road departure right there.
Here, and there's nothing here, they staged stuff.
Yeah.
If my operator left it like this and somebody goes off the road and ends up in the fence, I think the county has some liability, but if Stan does this, does he accept the liability if somebody departs the road right there?
I understood it was to kind of be more of a U-shaped, which would allow him to see to all of this.
And so it comes down pretty steep. There's a flat bottom of it. And so I understand what he did and how he did it. It's just, it does leave that abrupt edge on the side of the road that enters into, if we have roadway departures right there, and it very well could be my road grader operator as he's trying to plow this up until the point where we close the road.
Because he could put the side of his grader off that.
Yeah.
I understand your concerns, Lance. I knew that it was going to be that way. There's no way to avoid it in that area.
And that's what we tell them, that it's like, I don't think you have the room to get this as a nice gradual come down from the road and go out. I figured that he would try to do something like this and then say, well, you let me do it. And if somebody leaves the road and crosses his fence, then it's our fault too.
And can't he just level out that slope and have it come down to a drain on the bottom?
I don't think if he did that, he's not gonna get as wide a swell as what he thinks needs to happen to channel the amount of water coming down.
This is one of those places that we need to just go ahead and get the grass planted and see if we can make this work. I am certain that we have other roadsides in the county that have the same slope off issue as this is going to have. This is just one of those times when we got to kind of just try to move forward.
You're gonna have a hard time convincing me of making a special standard for Stan.
Well, Roger, you got it in other areas of the county.
Not a
We're not making a special standard there. We're just looking for the best option to stop washing that road out and washing rocks and junk into his field. I mean, we're looking for an option here. It might not be perfect, but
and where I draw the line is when it's going to create something we're manually doing, that has another option. It's going to create a liability for the county. I don't know why he can't just gentle the slope out and plant the grass.
There's not room. There's just not room there between our roadside and And then where his fence is, it drops off really abruptly. There's just not room to do that.
So it was gradually sloped down all the way to the fence line, but it didn't create that swell or a channel for the water to go down. And it ended up pretty much sloped all the way to the fence line. Which is what another thing he's trying to do is prevent his fence lines from getting washed out. But, I mean, it's a hard thing for me, knowing that if I went out there in the same area and did the same thing with this much dirt piled on his fence, he'd have come unglued.
Did you get any, waiver of liability from him?
What I did get is him to finally sign the right of way permit, which was Wednesday. And I guarantee he didn't do all this in one day, so he probably was out there working without the right of way permit, and he come and sign for it afterwards.
Okay, but, did he sign a waiver of liability?
Well, part of that right of way permit says essentially that. I mean, he's doing the work in the right of way. So he accepts some of that, but I know how that goes.
Yeah, on the fence. That's the problem I got with Stan. I mean, you're talking intermountain packing. You know, Stan's gonna do the same thing. You know, he'll
What he
take-
wants to do.
Yeah, we dealt with it a couple times, up on the Bone Road, on lay down fences and. You know, things that he could have done differently, but just refused.
It is what it is. I've taken some pictures. We know where it is. We have a right of way permit signed. I talked with Judd just a little bit. He does not have the grass seed, all of it, right now. He is expecting it, within a week or so. Judd was going to probably go up there either sometime today or tomorrow and look to see whether his cedar could actually get into this swell and plant the grass.
Yeah, and I'll talk with Judd if he can't get his cedar in, we'll take up a couple of rakes and rake it in. It's not that big of an area. This can be done.
Well, before we give the authorization, I want us to bring it up on our agenda and vote on it, because I'm not gonna agree to that.
Okay. Well, let's do it, but let's do it right away. Well, as soon as we can, because as soon as we can get John, because to make this succeed, we need to get this grass planted as soon as possible.
Here again, the pattern. You told Stan he needed to do that. You didn't have him even respond for a permit for days or weeks.
Weeks before he
Weeks
finally got in.
before he finally did it, and then we have to jump and do it immediately.
Well, yeah, I get you.
You know, just not gonna treat him any differently than we do anybody else. Even Doyle Beck, you know, we made him to toe the line and get the exceptions that were deemed safe. We're not doing that with Stan.
Well, let's put it on the agenda. John looked at it. He knows what we've got there.
Okay, because I'm gonna put my reasons for objecting in there.
Okay, and that does protect you if there is a problem there, but we'll see how John votes. We know how we're gonna vote.
There is no scale at Intermountain Packing. I looked at the aerials just barely and there's no scale anywhere out there, so.
No, they must weigh, they might have a scale inside that corral system or something to weigh those animals in, and then they must
Yeah.
just load that truck supporting the pallet size or something on the way out. So,
Let me ask you one question back on this stand thing where it slopes off. If our operators come and work that and it actually goes down over that slope into the grassy area, is he gonna require us to come back and clean it out?
Yes, he would. I can easily see that.
I mean, you know, that has to be a condition of this, you know, that any road maintenance in there. You know, we're not gonna come out and redo this stuff he's done, or we'll be doing that all over the county.
Yeah,
You wanna add that onto the agenda for next Wednesday, or do you wanna?
The
try
next,
to-
the next day that we have all three commissioners isn't until the 10th of October.
Whatever you guys wanna do, so.
What do you want me to
Um,
say?
I'm
I
fine
just-
with the 10th. I mean, I'm fine with the 10th if that's what it needs to be.
Put it
Or
on,
I can do it by phone whenever you want to.
just acceptance of, modifications to Eagle Pass Road.
Yeah,
And I go along with the testing as long as there's a condition in there that. Whatever we do maintenance in there, we're not required to go back in and clean up.
yeah, that's probably a good idea to put something like that in there.
Because that's where he's gonna keep coming at you. It'd be fine to test this. And as long as there is acknowledgement that there's no liability, you know, for repairing that fence. You've gotta spell that stuff out with him or he'll be right back.
Well, let's be honest, first hard rain next spring, it's gonna wash out on his fence side anyway, and it's gonna completely take out everything he's done.
And he's gonna come back and try to get us to fix it.
Well, and that we need to make sure that that's not gonna happen. He agreed to do this on his own.
Okay, and if all that is spelled out in the minutes, I'm fine. You know, but you've gotta have that, just like we're doing with Intermountain Packing. You know.
Yeah.
You deal with those personalities and it's a never ending,
Challenging.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
fine.
So up in the upper area where we did talk about having another culvert across, I did talk with KR this morning about that, and we are gonna try to get that done before snow flies.
Okay, I appreciate that. That'll help this situation as well.
And then it's not gonna rain like it did.
I hope so. I hope it doesn't rain at all.
I was
Not
telling
for a little
Ryan,
while.
there's El Nino is coming back, so it's supposed to be warmer and less moisture. But they'll wait till December and then if it doesn't settle
say
in,
that
they'll
different.
change the forecast.
I just want that in the minutes, so Roger said it was gonna be warmer and less snow.
Get us through November. We gotta have a decent November. We have got to have that to get our rain shield on, so
And
give us a decent.
Then
November.
Roger can take the liability when it snows.
how much Lance was saying, it raised about 400,000 gallons in that last rain.
How many, your pond, leachate pond, it raised what, 4 knot or 3 knots? you
Oh,
said?
yeah, 4 knots.
And do you know about how much that is?
Yeah, it's probably down in the bottom like that's probably 400,000 or 500,000 gallons.
That's what I
And we
kind
can
of
haul
rough
it out
guessed.
about 40,000 a day.
Yeah, what are we getting out of there? 3 or
5,000 gallons and what, 8 loads?
No, we're back to getting 12.
Are you getting 12?
So how empty are you getting again?
We're back down now with what they've done. We lost a week basically, so we're back to where they're having a hard time sucking it out now. So we're getting down there. I need to get Travis to send me the running feet, the running feet to the bottom, and then we could measure the top down, we know where we're at. But we're below the second inlet, which the one that we terminated moved up, but we're below it probably 6 or 8 feet now, so we gotta be getting down there. It's getting harder and harder to get a full load. Those vacuum, they'll pull vacuum, but they can't pull that water that far, so we're having a hard time getting loaded now.
Cause that's what I was asking Lance, can you kind of daisy chain those for future? So you basically build a leachate pond down there for a future cell that you can use for overflow?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out right now to where we could build a pond next to the pond that we currently have. Without putting any piping in, that's our problem, is that piping causes us heartburn. Now we're really close to the pond, we could build 5, 6. And maybe 7,
I don't know if you get 7 and gravity feed it in.
yeah, but. And then we might have to move in after that. But I think they need to keep those ponds close to the. They need to make it so that they can get 2 or 3 cells into the pond and then move the pond again and then 2 or 3 cells and then. Because the shorter the distance, the less maintenance and the less chance of flooding.
So the idea is to try to get this pond big enough to handle the majority of that.
Or just an additional, so that we have 10 million gallons capacity instead of.
Well, because that's what I wonder is if you have one where instead of breaching it, you pump it into another.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to get it so that we don't have to pump. It'll be an
Just be
overflow
natural.
condition through a large pipe, and it'll be gravity, so we don't have to pump.
Okay, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about 2 different things, so if we have the existing pond and a pond next to it, and we can overflow into it without pumping. But then, as we go and build more cells, you still wanna be able to gravity feed that leachate into the pond. Without having to pump the leachate into the pond.